The Winds of Winter is one of the most anticipated novels ever, and George has given several updates on it through the years. The release of George R.R. Martin's novel, The Winds of Winter, has been highly anticipated since the airing of Game of Thrones in 2011, with fans eagerly awaiting any news on its release. Martin has faced immense pressure to finish the novel and provide source material for the TV series adaptation, but the book's delay ultimately led to an oversimplified ending for Game of Thrones. Despite multiple updates and estimates from Martin, including progress updates during the COVID-19 pandemic, The Winds of Winter is still not finished, disappointing fans who continue to eagerly await its release. Hello everyone, if you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe and click the notifications bell, so you don't miss any new updates on your favorite TV series. Since Game of Thrones aired in 2011, book readers have eagerly waited for the next novel in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, and he's made several comments regarding the anticipated release since. As Martin expanded his universe, the time between novels continuously grew. The previous novel, A Dance with Dragons, was released on July 12, 2011, 6 years after A Feast for Crows. But with over 12 years of waiting, The Winds of Winter is infamously late. Game of Thrones was a cultural phenomenon, launching George from a successful author to one of the world's most famous and prolific storytellers. With that notoriety came excruciating pressure to release his novel to provide the series with the source material to adapt. That ship sailed, and the series was left to resolve without his work. Martin's novels are in such high demand that anything he says about The Winds of Winter is a news story, as readers crave any nugget of hope for its release. Here are some listed updates concerning Winds of Winter. Number 1. I'm not going to say. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, George R.R. Martin spoke about The Winds of the Winter for the first time doing press for A Dance with Dragons. When asked about the 6th book, he responded, "I'm not going to say. I've gotten in constant trouble for that. There's an element of fans who don't seem to realize I'm making estimates. I've repeatedly been guilty of an excess of optimism." The statement, which he would later contradict by providing estimates, should have been the first sign of a long wait. A Dance with Dragons only grew his world, and more narratives to tie together make for a more challenging conclusion. Number 2. I really look forward to publishing it soon. In 2012, George R.R. Martin spoke with the Spanish blog Adria's News, where he gave some brief updates on the novel. "I've already written 400 pages of my 6th book and I really look forward to publishing it in 2014, but I am really bad for predictions." At the time, HBO was preparing for the release of Game of Thrones Season 3, meaning he was already behind schedule if he wanted to stay ahead of the adaptation. The Winds of Winter is meant to be roughly 1,600 pages, meaning he was a quarter finished in 2012, not accounting for the immense rewrites he described. Number 3. I still have a lot of pages to write. 2014 came and went without The Winds of Winter, and in 2015, it seemed increasingly likely that Game of Thrones would pass up the novels. In an interview with Access, he mentioned progress toward writing Season 6, saying, "I still have a lot of pages to write, but I also have a lot of pages that are already written." Sadly, the lack of source material led to the downfall of Game of Thrones, which suffered from an oversimplified ending in the absence of Martin's structure. Number 4. Anything I can do to clear my decks and get this done. Shortly after the previous interview, Martin was asked by Entertainment Weekly about whether the novel could be published before Game of Thrones Season 6 was set to air in the spring. In response, "Maybe I'm being overly optimistic about how quickly I can finish. But I cancelled 2 convention appearances, I'm turning down a lot more interviews, anything I can do to clear my decks and get this done." The message got hopes up for a 2016 release date, and while Season 6 made for one of the best Game of Thrones seasons, the book didn't arrive. Number 5. But the book's not done. George Martin's active engagement with fans via his blog is a blessing, and unfortunately, he's had to utilize it to deliver some disappointing news. In early 2016, Martin broke the news on his blog that he wouldn't be done by Game of Thrones Season 6 and was done setting deadlines. He said, "But when delivery will be, I can't say. I am not going to set another deadline for myself to trip over. The deadlines just stress me out." Created by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, Game of Thrones is a TV series based on the book A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. It tells the story of the ongoing battle between the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros as they fight for control of the coveted Iron Throne. Friction between the houses leads to full-scale war. All while a very ancient evil awakens in the far north. Amidst the war, a neglected military order of misfits, the Night's Watch, led by House Stark's Jon Snow, is the first to encounter icy horrors that threaten all realms of men. The series premiered on HBO in the United States on April 17, 2011, and quickly became one of the biggest event series in the golden age of TV. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and drop comments. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything.